Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Ninjutsu podcast. I'm your host, Don Rowley. Today, we're going to talk about the ninja art or skill of sowing disunity among the enemy, causing them to fight among themselves. This is an ancient tactic. Every culture, every part of history has had situations where the enemy divided cannot stand up to an external enemy when they're fighting among themselves. If you've got my Kindle book on the 36 stratagems, you might recognize it as number 9, view of fire from the opposite shore. Basically means to, as they have this fire going on, you just sit back and let them, kill each other off. Um, this is this is something that the ninja did a lot. I mean, the ninja were known for their stealthy stuff, their spying and their assassinations and their night attacks. But a big portion of their actual job was to sow disunity and division among the enemy. If they were in a province, disguised as a traveling salesman, say, while they were gathering information, they would also spread stories that would try to get the people against the government and different families against each other, things like that. The more disunity, the more decisiveness there is, the better for an external enemy. As an example of the type of thing that the ninja did, the Bansen Shukai, here's my translation of it. Um, Before going on a mission, the ninja would sew into like the collar or the hem of his outfit a letter. And if the ninja got caught, he would try to negotiate things and be like, if you do not kill me and let me go, I'll give you something big, really big. And then bring out the letter. And the letter was basically from the ninja's employer to supposedly to someone in the enemy government that was very vital. Let's say a top general that the enemy lord relied on to keep things together. And the content of the letter would basically be talking about how they are going to work together to overthrow the enemy lord and put this person in charge. Well, you can imagine the results. Even if it didn't work and the ninja was taken to the execution ground, he knew that the guy that was the target in the letter was going to be taken out and like that. Very effective tactic if used correctly. Um, Disorder and disunity, divisiveness. This is a very, very skillful thing. Um, the last ninja, Fujita Seiko, who was the last practitioner of a style of ninjutsu, the Kogaru Wadaha, he was actually sent to China to kill Chiang Kai-shek during World War II. Because the nationalists, were very, very effective at fighting the Japanese. So someone in Tokyo sent him to take out Chiang Kai-shek. It was a situation where they couldn't get a division in. They could get a person in disguised as a Chinese, but not, a large military force. Once Fujita got to China, he spoke with somebody who had a lot more information on the ground, and he dissuaded Fujita from doing it because, as he put it, right now you've got the communists under Mao and the nationalists under Chiang Kai-shek, and they're doing more fighting between each other than they're really doing to us. And Mao is, again, was just kind of sitting back and waiting for the Japanese to leave before he pounced on the nationalists. But if Chiang Kai-shek was taken out of the picture, there was a good chance that the communists would absorb the nationalist fighters and then provide a unified front against the Japanese. Fujita Seiko thought this over, agreed, and didn't go through with the assassination. So, again, dividing people. This is what the ninja did. And today we are seeing this in spades. Okay? Um, there are people in Moscow and Beijing, rooms full of people. Their only job is to try to get us to fight each other. Doesn't matter what it is. It's they're trying to get whites to hate blacks and blacks to hate whites, straights against gays, Christians against Muslims, and they will jump on anything that they think they can do damage to the other side. Um, in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks, the massacres, the terrorist attack in Israel, people are worried about the innocent people of Gaza being caught in the crossfire. We're now seeing stories in left-leaning communities online about how the Jews do all these horrible things and how they control everything in America. It's really kind of interesting seeing the American Nazi Party and Antifa share the same links to the same stories. We live in interesting times. But one thing that they have an opportunity now, and they're going to take it. They are taking it. Is the election. As I put this up, the day I put this up, it will be approximately about 4 months into the American election for president. And elections are great things to help drive things between the people because, you know, even if the person that gets 51%, that means 49% didn't vote for him and are naturally inclined to hate the person. And even among the 51%, a lot of them are like, well, I have to do this. Um, it's not so much one candidate or another, it's dividing people among themselves. There was an election in Europe. Russian hackers hacked a news site, a major news site. And on the night of the election, they put up the guy that lost as having won. And of course, it didn't change the elections. The guy that actually won actually did take office. But you can bet that even now, there are some people that voted for the guy that lost who are convinced that everything was rigged. The whole system is corrupt. The system is rigged. And that's what they want. They want distrust of the system. They want people to hate whoever is in the Oval Office. It doesn't matter if it's candidate A or candidate B, as long as he is as weak as possible and people are fighting among themselves. This is, and again, this is what we're seeing. Not taking sides. I follow a podcast, and there was a on Twitter back when it was called Twitter in the last election, 2020. They they found an IP address in China that was a source for both a pro Biden group and a pro Trump group. And by pro, I don't mean like, hey, Joe is great. This is why you should vote for Joe. If it was supposedly pro Biden, it was all attacks on Trump, and the pro Trump stuff was all attacks on Biden, and they want to spread stories that will last even when somebody's in office, so people will remember that and resent it. We've seen this going back a few elections. I mean, right now, the guy with the bad toupee is in the lead, so more attacks is going to be sent at him, but still, there's going to be stuff sent at Biden. We saw this back, as far back as 2016. Those of you that are young adults might not remember this, but um, Hillary Clinton was, everyone was convinced Hillary Clinton was going to win. So, and we saw the breaking, story of, the emails of basically the DNC screwing over Bernie Sanders in favor of Hillary, stacking the deck. Um, First, some people think that's because they wanted Hillary, or excuse me, they wanted Trump in office. It's not really. The best bet is basically two things. First of all, the DNC was low-hanging fruit. Both the Hillary and the Trump campaign had full-time IT security guys on their staff. That was their job, IT security, nothing else. By contrast, the DNC had a part-time volunteer who took care of everything, you know, setting up printers and all that. And they figured that everybody got phishing attempts. GOP, Hillary, Trump, everyone got phishing attempts. There was just one guy in the DNC who fell for it. He went to the IT guy. The IT guy said it was probably legit. So that was the way in. Um, if they were targeting Hillary a little bit more than Trump, if it was probably because everyone thought Hillary had it in the bag. I mean, I, for one, went to bed early on election night, woke up the next morning and just thought, what the hell? This wasn't supposed to happen. So yeah, right now you can expect a lot of things to be sent against the Donald. But if Joe steps down and his replacement goes, surges ahead in the polls, well, then they're going to transfer over there. The idea is to spread as much dirt, have as much hate against whoever gets in the White House, so that when they get there, they are going to have a much harder job. It's going to be harder for America to have a part on the international stage and stand up to Beijing and Moscow if we are fighting among ourselves. This is something to keep in mind. Um, so yes, so if you are, if going into this election, just keep this in mind that, a lot of the stuff that you're going to see is going to be coming from outside the country. Um, Remember that whole Covington High School thing? The smirk of the kid, and that was again that was from outside the country. Um, and we were about ready to kill each other over it. If you remember, the kids had to go into hiding. People were saying this is why we need to get rid of that party and all that. And it was very effective until the actual story came out. And that was just a bunch of high school kids, okay? They're going to have a great opportunity with this. And already, their stories and such like that. There's, advances in AI and, deep fakes. It's going to be incredible. You Now, one of the problems is that, once somebody shares something on social media, it's very hard for them to turn around and say, "Hey, I was gullible." People don't like to look stupid, and when you share something where potentially millions of people can see it, to have it, to find out that, oh no, no, it was actually, something created. Uh, that's going to be a problem. It's human nature to not want to appear stupid in front of millions of people. Gee, think about that. Not too long ago, I was out with my friend and his wife, and she talked about how, the whole hands up, don't shoot thing. And I pointed out that the autopsy showed that he wasn't shot in the back. It was consistent with the police officer's story, all coming from the front, like he was bent over, like he was charging. And she immediately said, "Yeah, well, that's the police department's autopsy." And I pointed out, no, no, the family of the guy that ended up dead did an autopsy and it confirmed that. And her husband jumped in and said, "Yeah, yeah, that's the fact. The family of the guy that died, the autopsy showed the same thing that the police officer did." She then says, "Coroners stick together and will cover each other's stories." She didn't want to say that she was wrong, that she'd been spreading this story that that was wrong and slanderous to the officers. I've seen this time and time again. It's incredibly easy to fool people, almost damn impossible to get them to admit they were fooled. And this is the problem with social media. It's usually a case of getting the story out first, so that people will share it, and then rather than admit they were wrong, they entrench themselves. Okay, and as I said, the technology has advanced since the last presidential election. We're going to talk about something that might piss some people off. If you're one of the people that talk about Nancy Pelosi being a drunk, what are you basing that on? I happen to know it. That was just a simple video clip that somebody fooled with the speed so it sounded like she was slurring her words and acting drunk. It wasn't very high tech, it was just fooling with the speed. Now imagine what AI can do. Deep fakes, the people that came out with Chat GPT and the deep fakes that you can usually access online. For most of us, they realize these things can be misused, and they've got some things in place to try to prevent abuse. But you go on the dark net, and there are versions that no restrictions whatsoever, and we're not even talking what nation states like China and Russia and even Iran. Iran's got a whole bunch of people trying to cause problems. For some reason, all their hacker groups are called kittens, ferocious kitten and such. Um, Anyways, there's going to be stuff out there. I mean, with the deep fake that a nation state can come out with, you can bet that there's going to be something like a video clip of Donald Trump cavorting with 12-year-olds on Epstein Islands, or Joe Biden talking about how whites are superiors to black. Um, yeah, it's going to be bad. So going into this, keep your eyes open and realize that there are people actually trying to cause you to hate other Americans. It's not enough that you hate the president. They're going to basically, have it so that, like if you vote for person A and you see that a friend of yours has voted for person B, they want you to stop that friendship. How can you vote for this terrible person? You are a terrible person. It's going to be for all of us. They're targeting all of us, not just the presidential candidates. Um, Keep that in mind, okay? Uh, if you see a story, first of all, for a start, if you see a story, but the far left MSNBC isn't covering it, and the far right Fox News isn't covering it. Ask yourself, well, what's going on? I mean, these things are, very, very, very sneaky about the way they get the news out. I mean, there's some obvious ones that are still taken seriously. RT today. Well, Russia Today, RT. That's an obvious source, but again, a lot of online news sources will like borrow from other places, and they don't check their facts. I don't trust Al Jazeera to cover the Gaza conflict. I don't trust Russia Today for anything. But a lot of these sources and such like that, especially if they're shared on social media, tend to quote from these things without giving their source, so you can't tell where they're coming from. Um, it's going to be a very interesting election, folks. Aside from the fact that we've got people outside of the country trying to get us to kill each other if they can. Um, Zuckerberg isn't helping at all. He wants more people to have time on watching Facebook, and they found out that stories and such that cause outrage causes more engagement than cat videos. Thousands of people have died in places like Myanmar and Sri Lanka over these types of things. The riots have happened because of them, and people have died. Thousands of people have died, and that was not even with any intent. Okay, I think this election is going to be really bad because there's essentially two ways of getting someone to vote for a candidate. Either A, you say, hey, this is the great job he can do or has been doing, so you should vote for him for this positive thing, or you can convince the voters that the other candidate is so bad that you have to keep him out of office, and you have to vote for candidate that they want you to vote for. And let's face it, one of the sides is, oh boy, the polls are really horrible. I mean, when you get Trump versus Biden, just that, it's bad. But when you bring in a third party candidate, people, I don't want to vote for Trump, but I'm not going to vote for Biden. I'm going to go with the Green Party or DSA or whatever. It looks real bad. So I think that a lot of people are going to go with the negative, path anyways, and try to paint, Trump and Biden in as bad a light as possible. And just anybody that would vote for the opposite candidate had to be a monster. And by doing that, we're looking at years, if not decades, of strife between the American peoples. This is going to be a very serious thing, and the first step again is just realizing that there are people sitting back trying to get us to kill each other if they can. And just keep that in mind. Be careful about what you share, and be ready to eat some crow if you share something and it turns out to be false. And if you don't want to do that, be very, very careful about what you say, what you share, and what you espouse about a candidate. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But again, it is a chance to look out and see things happening in real time. And that's it for this podcast. See you next time.